And underway is the men's round of 16 doubles. If you're just tuning in, you're watching day one of the 2022 Collegiate National Table Tennis Championships. I'm Joe Wells. Alongside me is Matt Hetherington. And Matt, we are obviously in for a great match here in round of 16 doubles. They've had some doubles already start on the outer tables. People are just starting to experience that on these main courts, and we couldn't ask for a better opening match here on table number one.
Yes, indeed. Of course, you have two brothers from Maryland, and siblings often make for very interesting doubles teams. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't, as is the nature with all sibling pairings. And then, of course, the California players from UC Berkeley, one right-hander, one left-hander, so another classic combination, I guess.
And really, it's not only classic, but it sets up as the advantage. It's ideal because you've got two forehands inside of the table. Even if you step outside of the table, you kind of control the table. Ultimately, unless you're a backhand dominant player, which then it doesn't help. But and we're referring to the brothers. We have Kai and Kwa Den of Maryland versus Nathan Lee and Nikhil Kumar of UC Berkeley.
And I think with the Berkeley pairing, you're going to see Nikhil kind of taking command of points. Obviously, he's an Olympian. He's made two US national finals. This is his first time here at the National College National Championships. So really great to have him here. He's got a lot of international experience. But as a left-hander, just a crazy amount of range in his game. His placement, there's chop blocks, misdirection, and in doubles, that's such a useful tool, really being able to control where the ball's going and find space, lots of deviation, and he's a very, very tricky player. And it makes life a lot easier for his partner as well.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of actually watching Nikhil play at the World Championships in November. He was playing a very experienced player from Brazil, and he just handled that match pretty well because his opponent, slipping my name now, but it's someone that had been on the World Tour.
I think it was Suboy, maybe, the left-hander.
Gustavo Suboy.
Yeah. Who he's beaten once before. Yeah, I mean, when he has his day, he's phenomenal.
But it's also great to see the UC Berkeley team carry on their tradition of just very strong lineups, some very competitive teams each year. They're right there, knocking on the doorsteps a lot of times in Coed. Obviously, they have a history of having a very strong women's program, but adding Nikhil Kumar to the Coed team just bodes well for them for the years to come.
Yeah, and they have such a strong array of clubs out there. They're just feeding players into, I mean, even the future lineup. I know of more, national junior, national senior level players that are going to Berkeley next season. So it's going to continue.
Yeah, and hopefully we see some of the same trending on the East Coast as well. I know that we've seen it in some of the Ivy League programs as well, some of the junior national players or junior team players. that came up in that whole Delmarva region out of the Baltimore, D.C. area, even New Jersey, New York, all end up, on one of the teams on the East Coast. So, yeah, just a big, exciting future. And so far, UC Berkeley off to a really strong start, 11-6 there in that opening game. I'm pretty sure that their goal is to get on the table, take care of business, and get right back off the table as best as they can. And the pairing of brothers, they're really going to have to, I don't want to say you just kind of go for broke when you know that you're up against some very strong opponents, but sometimes you just have to be willing to take your shot. We saw it earlier in some of the singles matches where the players were content just staying within their game, but not willing to do more within the match. And that's what I think that these brothers are going to have to do here in this as they go into the second game, a round of 16 doubles. And easily the service sequence can get lost after you step away from the table very quickly, as we saw here, as the players straighten it out as game number 2 is underway.
So Lee, so far, just keeping the service game relatively simple. Nikhil having the capacity to straight off this the third ball, even if it's really tight and short, he can do a lot with it.
And there you saw just that variation you were talking about earlier in Kumar's game, how he's able to take a very low forehand and almost chop block it back into the middle of the table. And that takes a lot of feel, a lot of control to be able to really control what one would consider defensive or passive shot, and he turned it into a very forward-thinking type of stroke. So curious to see how this game goes and how the brothers adjust to those variations of spin.
It's a great opening there from Kai.
Yeah, and I like that play right there. Obviously Qua wanting to go with the forehand. Nothing wrong with them taking their cuts, and that's what I want to see out of this match from the brothers from Maryland, them being aggressive and not being afraid of the moment.
Great control there. That's really the task for them, is can they deal with what is often going to be unexpected, an unexpected shot for them. I mean, Nikhil's doing a lot of unorthodox stuff to try and disrupt their rhythm, to try and force those errors. So they look like they're just slowing down, taking a little bit more time to figure out how they deal with those shots.
Yeah, just a great quick flip there, forehand over the table from Quad then. And Maryland is actually out to a quick lead here in game number 2, 4-3.
Nice tight play there from Lee on the serve return.
Again, just a controlled backhand there from Kumar, misdirecting the opponent. You don't really get to see a lot of people who can go any direction they want with a backhand drive typically from that angle. But again, factoring in that he's a lefty.
Kumar's just getting away with murder over here with these kind of almost emergency chops. Half the time he's running away from the table. Lee going for the forehand.
And those are the ones that if Kumar is going to play a controlled game and set up his teammate, Lee's going to have to take advantage of those sitter forehands.
Good. Very good.
It's either that or Kumar has to switch up his game more. You can see him making the opening. Much easier for Lee to deal with topspin. I've kind of seen that recurring throughout the day of Players really trying to set up more topspin, not having to deal with tougher openings. And
is it possible, even at a player at Nikhil's level, that if he gets kind of into this passive controlled blocking, chop blocking game, that he can't just transition and rhythm into the offensive side of things?
Oh, just misses the
A
table.
little bit of exhibitioning there in this round of 16 doubles, and I like it. Some crafty work there by the players from Maryland.
You could see Nikhil flipping his racket over. He's using, typically you don't want to hit high balls with Hurricane 3 because it's quite hard and doesn't really have much, I guess, smashing force in it.
And folks at home, that's exactly why we bring Matt in for things like that you all at home wouldn't know. To the naked eye like myself, I wouldn't have known that Kumar is using that Hurricane 3 and why you wouldn't want to use it on a forehand smash. And also, FYI, he's going to bill us extra for that because that's that's not something everybody knows.
Great pickup on the serve receive. When they do get into their attacking stride, they just have really, really fluid technical game. It's very, very refined, especially on the forehand side.
Yeah, and we saw, obviously that forehand was more of a power loop, to the open court, but we've also seen them open up with some really nice soft topspin and control it as well. So they, both brothers having good variation on the forehand side. Kumar and Lee still lead 10-8 game number 2. Another amazing rally there as UC Berkeley takes 11-8 in game number 2. Obviously, the players from Maryland still putting up a good fight. They were able to keep that second game a little bit closer, establish a little bit more offense in the second game, and I think they're going to be expecting more of that as well in game number 3, just continuing to go for their shots. Nikhil Kumar obviously looking to possibly, if you will, later in this tournament, as they practice, as they get more warm, he's positioning Lee for what could be next. Right? He wants to set him up for, hey, there's going to be times where you have to take the offensive position when you're going to get shots, and it's not just, all of the offense coming from me as we go into these later rounds possibly.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think one of the things, though, in the second game, we saw him opening up a little bit more. I think the thing that he needs to be conscious of is on some occasions when he's chop blocking the ball or chopping the ball on his forehand, these two brothers haven't been too uncomfortable with it. They've managed to adapt to it, and it actually makes the next ball more difficult for Nathan because it's a weird ball running into a weird return. And so, they might get to a point where he might have to be a little bit more conventional for his partner's sake. And we saw even in the last rally of the last game, him just making a pretty clean opening. Nathan's able to come in and capitalize and follow up on that with a attack against the topspin ball. It's much easier for him than dealing with maybe a kind of slow, grimy topspin loop against a chop block.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, and it's a good opening forehand flip there off court from Nathan Lee. Like to see that control on that shot.
That's just wild.
That's a prime example of, imagine if the Maryland pair had got that ball back home.
Right.
What was on that ball? What were you putting Nathaniel Lee into position for, right? Like, what was, he's just going to have to try to push it back.
I mean, the crazy thing about Nikhil is that these are the kind of shots that you would see from players, once in a match, maybe. He's doing this stuff all the time, just constantly. It's so disruptive to the people that he plays against. He's a very, very tactful player with so much range. And, you know, from the difficulty of his hook serves, returning his hook serves,
You have a timer?
you know, if you return a topspin hook serve and you control that topspin, and then you run headfirst into a chop block, that's not normal in table tennis. You get that from very few players, and it's so hard to build any kind of game plan or rhythm against. It's tough. He's
exactly maybe trending because we saw it from McDermott earlier in the day.
McDermott is
Did it a lot.
McDermott is a very, very creative player. I think Nikhil's kind of the next level above that, where, you know, John McDermott, to his credit, is a player who has developed his game himself. I mean, he's gone through clubs and played against a lot of weaker players, some stronger players, hasn't really had any coaching. This guy's done it by himself. And to have the hands that he has and to be able to get away with the shots that he gets away with is crazy.
Yeah, he has great feel. And like you said, you mentioned the word creativity earlier. You can see that in his game, but it also shows here in this match with Kumar as well.
Going for that fade loop. Brothers still doing pretty well to situate themselves in points. They're maintaining an assertive game plan, going for their forehand openings.
And really, you know, the one thing is that if they can string together 3 points in a row here, then the match gets really interesting. Or at least game 3 gets interesting if the brothers can, you know, get away with some from free points as well.
And really, Nikhil doing a good job to set his partner up.
Yeah, that was a great backhand to the cross court by Nathan Lee there.
Another setup opportunity. Probably a little bit higher and deeper than he was expecting.
Oh, they definitely got away with one
Yeah.
there. I mean, the ball just sat up and
He kind of sat there waiting for it. I think with that ball, you got to take half a step back and get around the corner and play forehand.
you have the time for it to look like. But again, I mean, Nathan Lee opted for the backhand. He had already hit a solid one so far in this game.
So, Den Brothers, first time in the lead here in the match.
And then unfortunately, you know, Matt, they give it right back. And we're just talking about this, stringing together some points in a row allows them to stay in this game.
Bit of a lucky break there. Their first openings are great. I think they managed to keep the ball trajectory so close to the net, and it's not a powerful opening. It's really, you can't really do that much with it.
And Den there with his own version of a chop block, and it was pretty tricky. There's a lot of spin on it actually, but the pair from UC Berkeley is hanging on here. They lead 9-7 in game number 3. Den to serve.
Taking a lot of risk with that placement, but I mean that's what it takes. I mean when you're able to execute at that level, it makes a huge difference. But Kumar stumbling a little bit there.
And the brothers, again, you were talking about earlier, a more traditional pace forehand loop, just straight topspin. They can handle that. They can stay in points. And they've kept it very close here as it's 9-9 in game number 3. And Den Brothers take just a moment to themselves to towel off and see if they can steal one here in this third game. Kill Kumar to serve.
And a little bit of a flat contact there from Lee. Just has to brush through that first ball.
And just as a leader should, Nikhil Kumar just trying to settle his teammate down just a little bit.
Goes for that hook serve. You could see his thumb kind of move up on his racket, change the grip. And a daring half-long serve. That's in doubles. half long and long serves are usually,
Get you in trouble. Absolutely.
yeah. Unless you have a very good plan.
Yeah, again, impressed. The Did brothers have been able to get this match into deuce. It's 11-all in game 3. They're feeling a little bit more confident as they're taking some more chances. We saw that 2 points ago as Coed tried to take a forehand flip open court against that side top serve.
Very heavy push there. So they're going to get another chance at winning this third game. There's some momentum that, you know, could be a little bit dangerous. I think these Berkeley guys need to shut things down here.
And that's exactly right. It's one of those moments where if you feel like your teammate is just not as confident in executing and taking that finishing shot, it's probably going to shift back to Nikhil, where he's going to have to end some of these points now.
Very lucky there. They almost recovered it. It was very close to that back edge. Now, of course, we're swinging to a match point for the Berkeley duo. And with Lee serving and Nikhil following up, could be enough for them to close things out.
I mean, it's just an amazing effort for them to even be able to get that first forehand back to stay in the point. So great effort there by the brothers from the University of Maryland as they really fought hard in that third game. They were able to tie it up and get all the way to deuce. They trailed at 10-9 at one point. But they end up losing 14-12 in the third. I know that is, you know, great work from UC Berkeley, but they have some things to clean up as they look forward into the next round of things. You know, you never want to go into the match maybe with one of your teammates wavering in confidence in some of his execution. And I'm pretty sure that Nathan Lee knows that this next round he's not going to be able to really help the team if he doesn't finish some of those balls on either side, opening on the backhand or forehand side of things.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think even in the third game, just a few balls where, I mean, he's making a big effort to really drive into the ball, but sometimes you've just got to have a little bit more finesse. And I think the brothers from University of Maryland, they had that fine contact that just helped them control a lot of strange shots from Nikhil in particular, but very, very good control over the contact. But an interesting match, especially for me because I live in Maryland and I actually haven't seen these guys before. I've heard a lot about them. I think they played more when they were juniors, kind of like a few years ago, and they've just maybe started coming back into it recently. But
and that's one of the things that I think the college side of things allows some of these juniors that maybe, I don't want to say they burnt out, but some of them they burn out, right? And if they can come back to a not so competitive or less intense environment to where they're in school, they're in college, but they also have a team.
Right.
The team hangs out, they have fun at practice, they go out to eat afterwards, and there's just less of that high intense junior training day in and day out, tournament on the weekends, kind of a grind. So
yeah, it was actually interesting for me. There's a player here, Alexander Wu. He's a chopper from California. This is his first year in college, and he was in the national cadet team before. And I caught up with him yesterday. I haven't seen him for quite a long time, and he just said, you know, I don't feel any pressure. I really don't. You know, this environment for him, he's taken a little bit of a step away, especially, you know, during the last couple of years. Hasn't played very many tournaments really at all. And he's like, yeah, that pressure that I had before to always need to win is gone. And he's said, I almost feel like I'm playing better because it's just been lifted off. So I think college table tennis is a great way for those junior players who still love to play table tennis and they still have a lot of great skills and a lot of good feel for the game and how the game should be played. I think it's a good way back to kind of light the flame for them again, but in a different way. It's not like, it doesn't have to be about winning everything and feeling that horrible pressure of going to tournaments and like, I need to win. I need to make national teams. I need to do all this stuff. But
yeah, and that's the great side about college, is it's more about the team than it is just about you individually. And I think that a lot of these teams, you've probably seen it in the matches. For those of you that are just tuning in, we just ended the round of 16, but you know, we saw a lot of these matches are being played, and you've got teammates cheering, and you know that every point counts, and it's not just about you, but you know, you have other people around you lifting you up and supporting you.
absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things that they really do enjoy about college table tennis at its best. Up next, we're going to have Texas Wesleyan versus NYU in the quarterfinal men's championship doubles on table number 2. I'm Joe Wells. Alongside me is Matt Hetherington. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly.
Are we ready to go? All right, our quarterfinals, we have Texas Wesleyan versus NYU. Let's give a little round of applause for these guys. Quarterfinals of the college championships. All right, we have our head umpire is Simon Chu. And we have from Texas Wesleyan, Eduardo Tomioka, and Santiago Montes Salarta. From NYU, Lucas Danny, and Jeremy Hansen. Assistant umpire, Martin Arevalo.
And on day one, we're just rolling through this doubles competition. It is the quarterfinal matchup. We've got Texas Wesleyan, the 5th seed, versus NYU, the number 2 seed. You've got Mudit Danani and Jeremy Hazin of NYU versus Eduardo Tomoke and Santiago Montes Solarte of Texas Wesleyan. And if you thought the last match was impressive, a 2 versus 5 seed in the quarterfinals. You've got the number 2 versus the 5 in the quarters already. There's some new players, new presence at Texas Wesleyan. We really haven't had a chance to see them on these show courts in day 1, but now as we get into these deeper rounds, expect a whole lot from the players from Wesleyan. If I'm not mistaken, Matt Hazin, new player to NYU. Is he Canadian, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep.
Canadian national team member?
Yes. Played Tokyo Olympics for Canada. I think just qualified for the Commonwealth Games as well. He's played a maybe a handful of World Championships. Now at NYU. So, I mean, he's a player that's traveled to the US regularly to train and compete. So, he's a pretty familiar face here. Mudit Danny was Indian junior national team. Still plays. I played, a reasonable number of ITTF World Tour events, and he even played the Pyongyang Open in North Korea, which is, adventurous, I think is the right word for it.
That is a safe word for it. That's exactly what I would call it, adventurous. But while these players warm up, we just want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of this event, NCTTA, the Round Rock's Convention and Visitors Bureau and Sports Commission, the Round Rock Sports Center. The people here in Round Rock have always been so gracious to us. They've hosted us before, and we really just enjoy our experience when we come here to Texas, but especially going into Round Rock, which sits just outside of Austin. We'd also like to thank the supporters and friends of the game, Yola, the Austin Table Tennis Club. We've got also some newcomers involved with Doublefish and all of those other great sponsors and people that have supported us over the years. So can't thank them enough for allowing us to be able to put on a great championships, arguably one of the best events in the U.S., if not the best. Just having all collegiate age players from all around the world. And again, like we were just talking about, the junior level players from the U.S. and from Canada coming to compete now at the college ranks is just means so much to the game.
It looks like Tomoike is a Japanese penhole player, which is most often J-Pen using the more rectangular table tennis racket, and more often than not, no rubber on the backhand side. I'm not sure about Tomoike, but usually painted to keep it light. They use blades that often have cork components to really make the racket lighter, and they will play a more traditional style. So using the same side for backhand and forehand.
Yeah, so that means that, well, some entry-level, intermediate-level J-Pen players on the backhand side are handicapped or disadvantaged when you start really attacking and pinpointing them onto the backhand side. But I'm imagining that to Moike's level, that is not going to be the issue here.
Yeah, I mean the biggest weakness they have is playing against backspin. It's really hard with the way that your wrist is kind of oriented on the backhand to be able to drop your racket and create topspin while closing the angle. So certainly heavy backspin into that backspin, the backhand corner. The majority of these J-Pen players have to have immensely good footwork because they need more often than not to use their forehand basically across the whole table. And it's become a really difficult style at the international level. And I mean, I would say post 2005, 2006, it's a style that's largely been phased out at the international level.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. We're not going to, as we're in early into this game one, but if you mentioned 05, 06, I want to say it was one of the Olympics during those years that
2004.
Korean,
yeah, wrestling men.
and you would have thought that maybe there would have been some popularity or interest in it, but I think some people saw how much work it is, because Rusung Min was this blazing speed around the table.
But he was already, it was like the tail end of J-Pen for Korea. They'd already had players like Oh Sang-eun and Ju Se-hyuk with the chopping. A lot more shakehand players. And Korea, Japan had a couple, Hong Kong a couple, but you know, around that time, the majority of players coming up with shakehand.
And again, talking about some of the speed and footwork, Tomoike really turns his back to the table when he's serving, and he's serving forehand side, where a lot of people will elect to serve with the backhand to save them some transition time to step around and get themselves into the point. But when he sets up, he's really got his whole body angled in, and that's really allows him to generate more of the spin that he needs for an effective serve.
So, interesting start so far. The NYU players just struggling to find their rhythm a little bit. You have Danny, of course, who's got slightly more drawn out shots, very spin and touch oriented, and then Jeremy, who really stays up at the table, like fast, short counter loops, a lot of speed. But
and there was an example of those explosive forehands from Tomoike of Texas Wesleyan, as he just steps around and power loops a forehand down the line. Texas Wesleyan leads 8-4 in game one. Hazen to serve. And it's going to be interesting because I know that this is Solarte's first year with Wesleyan. We've never seen him before. We always know that Wesleyan recruits a lot of strong players, very heavy presence coming out of Central America and some South American players in past years.
Just great steady play from both players. I mean, you've got to hand it to Solarte. He's doing a great job of setting up the points to try and keep Tomoike on that forehand and really not create the opportunity for them to play really wide to the backhand side. So there's a lot of cross-court angles across to this right side of the NYU table. They don't want any wide angles going to the backhand.
Right, which is when you're talking about Hazen being a left-hander, that's where you would have seen the advantage come into play. But it hasn't played out here so far. NYU finds themselves right back in this match. They were down 4 points at one point, but they're only down 1 now. They need a serve. And again, a big step around there from Tomoike.
I think a big part of the difference here is that they're not playing too quickly into Jeremy's backhand side, and he needs to feed off that. He needs some pace to feed off.
Yeah, and even that was, you know, I don't want to say out of his comfort zone, but you could see he put a little bit more into that banana flip over the table than he was probably wanting to do, because he has to.
Took a big risk on the serve return there. Yeah, I mean, he's typically a player that controls well on his backhand. You don't see him take half a step back and kind of wind up on his backhand side to play big loops. So he's always playing the ball in front of it. And if you don't have any pace coming to you, it becomes really hard to generate that power. And I think that's what the Wesleyan guys are counting on. They get the angle cut off so that he can't play wide. They reduce his ability to play with power, and it just sets them up really well. Tomoike can come in, the ball's maybe coming into the middle of the table or to his forehand. Not really any really challenging angles and not really too much pressure. And that makes it really difficult for Mudat Danny. You know, if you're dealing with a J-Pen player's forehand, which is usually very powerful, and he's just going straight for the corner. So I think they tailored that quite well, the Wesleyan pair.
Do you think now, coming out of this timeout, it's a possibility from what we saw, Tomoike was placed in the middle of the table, and he would also move to the left side of his table, most of the inside-outside. Is it a possibility that NYU starts to keep him a little bit more honest in the point and play more out wide, even though they're playing into the strong side? At least they're making him move a little bit more?
I think so. Now you have Danny playing to Tomoike, and if he's playing that cross-court angle, Jeremy's going to be waiting there on his backhand. So there's a little bit more safety in playing that way for the NYU pair. Good job by Danny keeping the ball tight there on the serve return. Yeah, I mean, I think from a capability standpoint, they're both excellent players. It just comes down to how they form their tactics together as a pair. And the Wesleyan guys are very in tune with each other, and they're very aware of what their weaknesses are as a team.
And that also comes from just the amount of practice training that Wesleyan puts into play. But also you've got to tip your hat to their coaching experience, knowing the players to set up. Where some of these teams, they're kind of fending for themselves, figuring it out on their own. But Wesleyan has a very strong coaching staff who's able to analyze and put the right people in the right place.
And I think, you know, the NYU program's quite fresh. They've started obviously getting some better players on their team. Of course, the last time we were here, they were champions in 2018. I think it was 2018. Did I get that right?
18 here,
so.
yes.
Yeah.
19 in Greensboro.
Yeah, so NYU were champions the last time they were here, and Mudit Danny was part of that team then, along with the same coach, Gao Yanjun.
And how fortunate it is for NYU to have consistent coaching and a coach of Gao Yanjun's level as well. Not very many people can say that they have that.
I think the main difficulty for New York is venues. I mean, you know, the struggle that they have is you don't really have big table tennis centers in New York. It's a difficult, you know, real estate, very expensive. So it hasn't really been established with that infrastructure. You know, a lot of their team players are traveling, they're playing internationally. They're very, very active players. And they have a 6-4 lead here. Started figuring out some tactics.
Yeah, and I like that deep topspin ball. It wasn't overpowering, but it was placed very well, and you can see that it gave the Wesleyan pair all sorts of trouble, particularly the J-pin player on the backhand side. The ball was just too high. There's nothing he could do with it. But I like also, I am feeling like I'm seeing Hazen go for a little bit more. He's putting a little bit more oomph on the ball.
Yeah, and I think he's on his backhand side now, not in the position where he's getting pinned. I mean, he's still coming across a lot. It's dangerous territory.
Yeah, because you're taking over the table there when you're stepping, especially as a left-hander. Most left-handers would really want to take actually the forehand. I've had the pleasure of playing with a lefty once before, but he was lower level player, but because he was left-handed, it opened up for him to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, my serve return in doubles is probably at least 5 times better than it is in singles as a left-hander. But I never step around and play backhand. I mean, you lose a lot of advantage. Yeah, backhand banana flick, you can create a lot of rotation, but you can do so much with angles playing off that corner on your forehand. And if the ball ever goes half long, you're ready for it. If you're stepping across and playing backhand banana, especially from the middle, I mean, a lot of these serves are going close to the middle line. They're getting Jeremy all the way across into the middle of the table. But, I mean, to their credit, it's working.
And maybe that was the sequence that worked for the NYU pairing, that maybe that they were a little bit more comfortable within who was receiving the ball from who was hitting into who. Maybe that worked well for them, and which is why we've been going 5 all day in singles and doubles matches. Even in the Coed events, we were going to 5. We were going to 5th games, and even in the doubles. And I think a lot of that was who was comfortable or make the other team uncomfortable with who was receiving and who was doing the hitting. So right there quickly, NYU bounces right back with 11-6 lead in game number 2. We are now knotted at 1 game apiece here in the men's quarterfinal matchup of day 1 of the 2022 Collegiate National Table Tennis Championships. If you're just tuning in, I'm Joe Wells. Alongside me is Matt Hetherington. We're gracious enough to have people like Matt with us, Timothy Wong and Barbara Way, who have just a plethora of knowledge and involvement in the game, and they've been so gracious to come and help us out of this weekend. So in case no one says it to you, Matt, before this weekend is over, thank you so much for being here with us.
No problem at all. I've been waiting for it.
For 3 years.
I've been anticipating coming back to this. It's really one of my favorite events. I mean, I was fortunate enough to actually play a season before I started doing the commentary,
and you were new to it, not knowing what to expect. A very competitive team, but not, let's say, they were seasoned but not refreshed, just kind of coming back onto the table.
It gives you a very, very unique perspective of the event. Going through the divisionals, qualifying, playing teams and singles. You go to regionals, qualify again through to nationals. There's wildcards. It's such a fantastic blueprint for the sport, and it's just phenomenal what NCTTA can do with the resources that they have, and it's so great to, as you said before, have those long-term supporters that really make a huge difference for this event. But the number of people who come here and volunteer just for the absolute love of the game to create an event like this, for me, is, I just can't not be here. Like, I'm so drawn to it because I love passionate people when it comes to table tennis. I just think it's the best thing.
Yeah, it is a really fun weekend, and unfortunately this year we have no spectators with us. The only people that are here in the venue are...
They're all at home.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Watching at home, tuned in since 9 a.m. Central Time this morning, and we're only on day 1, and we're already getting fireworks on day 1. Solarte to serve. Texas Wesleyan trails 2-4 in game number 3. Maybe Dani and Hazine have finally found their rhythm. They're into this match, and they're more comfortable with what to expect from the pair from Wesleyan.
Definitely seems like Jeremy Hazen's been able to do a better job with the serve return, favoring the backhand, but it's working. It's working really well. He's keeping it tight, managing to neutralize the Wesleyan pair.
And even with the Hazine serve, he's not doing a whole lot with it. It's more so about placement, and I think that's one thing that you would find. You see a lot of people, you go to clubs and they're playing points, and they're trying to win point off serve. And that's not the case, especially not in doubles, because you mentioned earlier, you don't want to leave the ball mid-table or along.
Yeah, I mean, one of the difficulties, and maybe one of the reasons why they started off a little bit slower in the first set, is they're used to serving to set themselves up. And they both play vastly different styles. And Jeremy, you know, has these kind of short, floaty serves where they can flick and he can counter straight away. But he has to remember that Mudit likes a little bit more time to wind up his strokes and a little bit more space to get into position. So this is the thing about doubles. You can have two very strong players individually. Wow. Wow, that was a couple of very extraordinary bounces.
And was that a J-pin chop block in the middle of that rally at some point?
Kind of hit it inside out, like a. That's tough to do. Like the wrist positioning to hit inside out, J-pin that was pretty great.
It was impressive.
I don't know if I've ever seen that shot before. And they're going to tie it up at 7-7.
Just like that, the NYU lead disappears. Solarte to serve.
A little bit loose on the serve receive there. Soft and long to the forehand. Not really too helpful for his partner. It's a tough tough opening for Danny to deal with.
Especially as he's hitting into Tamoike's forehand. That is a lot of work for Moody to handle.
I think the serve may have been wrong side. Not something you see very often with players of this caliber. It does happen. And Tamoike just directing everything down the line.
Well, you're talking about that missing direction of the serve. It's just, there's so much pressure to keep the ball short or to keep the ball, you know, close to the middle of the table, so you're not opening up for the forehand play. So yeah, I could see, you know, easily the ball gets away from you a little bit.
It's a great forehand flick over the table by Mudit Dani. 9-9, 1-1. This is crucially important game for both teams.
Tamoike to serve, 9-all in the third game.
A little bit loose on the serve. I don't think it was meant to be half long.
But even that next ball, you would have thought that Solarte would have been able to handle that return.
Great
That's just
play.
a beautifully structured doubles point. Actually, by both teams, this the touch, the placement. You saw that no one tried to overpower the ball until they got their shot. And NYU was able to execute that beautifully. So again, I like it. Looks like NYU shifted.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more comfortable in the point. We're not seeing as much dominance from Tamoike, Texas Wesleyan, who was basically stole game one. He was all over it with the forehand, and easily NYU, with the caliber of players that they are, they figured something out, and it seems to be working. And they've been able to go through 2 different sequences of the serve and serve return and who's receiving ball, and they've been able to win back-to-back games. So now it's just a matter of whether or not the pairing from Wesleyan is going to be able to step up and take it to another level.
I think that last point really kind of summarized a lot about how the match has gone so far and how the change has worked for NYU. You had quite a lot of pushes. You know, not typical to see that many pushes at this level with this level of players. But Mudit Dani possibly had the opportunity to attack. But this gives you, you know, in that tiny fraction of amount of time, he knew he was not quite in position to make a high quality shot, but also realized that the other 2 players were not close to that forehand side. And so for him to push that ball shows a great deal of restraint. And that's what allowed Jeremy Hazen to then reposition and attack the next ball. But to make a decision like that in such a small amount of time is, you know, not to get caught up in the moment and try and go for broke is impressive. And that's what you expect from players of this caliber.
Yeah, the pairing from NYU continuing that streak from the third game here into the fourth, where this is really putting a lot of pressure on the Wesleyan left side of the table, which is most people's backhands. They're controlling the ball. The punch drive is a little bit more aggressive versus it just being a block. They're getting more depth on the shot. So I'm really liking the start from the pairing from NYU as they look to close out this quarterfinal match against Texas Wesleyan.
You can see Tamoike trying to start getting back in with the forehand as well. Great pickup there, recognizing that half-long ball.
And that's just not, you know, the best shot, I think, from Hazine, that he wanted to take that ill-advised kind of slap forehand.
Good hands from Solarte.
A lot of topspin on those balls. And for those people at home who might not realize what happens to the ball, Matt, once it comes off the net, like what does it do to the ball at that point with something that started off with so much soft topspin?
It's hard to know. Sometimes it might bounce up. Sometimes it might dribble over. It really depends on how it hits the net. Fantastic rally there. Some countering, but again, the big factor here, Tamoike getting in with his forehand. We haven't seen that in the last couple of games. The NYU pair have been able to shut it down a little bit more. If he can start getting back in with it, it really becomes, I think, the most significant factor in this whole match is whether or not he's able to play the role of the aggressor for the Wesleyan team. Brilliant play there.
Yeah, and we see in that point that Wesleyan wanting to stay in the point on the table, being aggressive, not trying to overhit. Obviously, it looks like Solarte doesn't have the biggest of powerful forehands, but it is a controlled forehand that he's able to generate some speed and spin. Right now, you get that he takes that backhand a little long. Wesleyan's right back on top at 6-5. And they're right back at to, kind of looks like Wesleyan from the first game.
Yeah.
Opens up with the push, allowing Tomoike to set up. If it does come back, Solarte basically starts the rotation over again, and until they can get back to Tomoike hitting a big forehand. So I like what I'm seeing from Texas Wesleyan here in the fourth game as they lead 7-4. Solarte to serve.
Great counters there from NYU.
And that was just a big shot from Muditini of NYU to be able to take such a heavy topspin ball and counter it to the open court.
Wow.
And then Denise coming through again with a very aggressive forehand block down line. Open court. NYU not going quietly as they tie it up now 7-all in the fourth game. I love the ebbs and flows, the back and forth of this doubles match here, NYU versus Texas Wesleyan.
You can kind of, you guys won't have been able to see that, but their coach Doro kind of giving them a few little signals there, maybe looking to them to try and play out wider and separate Danny and Hazen a little bit more. You don't want them to be kind of close to each other as a unit. And of course, you also don't want to give them angles. So playing down the middle of the table too much is a dangerous strategy. You can see here, even though they won the point, very focused on that middle third. And you know, you don't want to do that against a left and a right-hander. You're basically, even though they're playing backhand, most of the time you'll be finding forehands.
A lot of forehands. And Solarte just really frustrated as he takes that backhand long. It's one of those shots that he knows that he could probably hit 99 out of 100 times. But he just missed that one, sailed it long. It's now tied up here in game number 4. Is it going to be Denis and Hazine of NYU closing it out, or are we going to a fifth and deciding set?
Brilliant counter from Mudit Dani. Lands on the floor. Probably glad that ball didn't come back.
And back-to-back punches from the J-pin player. Talk about control when you need it most. We haven't seen him reel off 2 back-to-back J-pin backhand punches the entire match. And he needs it. He pulls it out to get him at 10-all.
It's like Hazen picks up a yellow card. Not entirely sure what that was for. I don't think he knows either. Wesleyan team have been quite successful in pushing the NYU pair back from the table, which is okay for Mudit Dani. Jeremy Hazen doesn't really like to be that far back.
Oh, just
Fantastic
an amazing
point.
display of table tennis there, folks. No one wanting to bend. I mean, everybody, you know, literally arching their backs over to hit these inside-out forehands, not wanting to give up their position on the table. There was so much work that went in just to getting to that point.
You could see Jeremy making an extra effort to really try and hold the table. Even when Mudit was back a little, pushed him into the corner. Good top spin opening from Salate. Very heavy rotation. Set up another game point here for the Wesleyan pair.
Are you kidding me? Solarte and Tomoike just rolling through that last point there. I mean, just some impressive display of precision and power. The angle that they hit, you know, down the line, for them to be able to knot this up at 2-all just shows huge credit to them for not shying away from their game and wanting to be the aggressors in this match.
Yeah, and again, we come back to it. Salate setting the ball up really well for his partner, who's finding his forehand much, much more in this fourth game than he did in the second and third. Like you said, kind of returning to the Texas Wesleyan pairing of game one. Much more dominant on attack. I mean, still very close margins. If you look at games 1 and 4, 11-9, 13-11. But you can definitely feel a significant difference in the performance, and especially towards the end. You know, once we got to this 10-10 and juice, the level of the points just skyrocketed.
But we saw it from both teams.
Yeah.
From NYU as well. It wasn't just Wesleyan. Wesleyan did end up winning that game, but, you know, very much so. NYU could have taken that, and we could be talking about them moving on to the semifinals. But here we are going to a fifth and deciding game here in this quarterfinal doubles match. It's almost the theme of Friday. It's basically been a full day of fifth and decidings, if you will, and we couldn't ask for more from these athletes as they're fighting for so much. They're fighting for their team. They're fighting for their school. They're fighting for national ranking, something to take home with them.
Fantastic play. That's really one of the first times we've seen a little bit more whip in the forehand from Salate.
Yeah, and you ask yourself, it's like, where have you been hiding that?
I think the answer to that is hidden somewhere in games 2 and 3. But now it's back out to play.
And I like it. He's holding his position. He took the ball a little bit higher off the bounce there versus, you know, waiting on it, and I like that play.
I think the more pressure he applies with his assertive game, the easier it's going to be for Tomoike to get onto his forehand. He's going to have more time, maybe deal with some more passive returns. That's phenomenal stuff.
And a great point there by NYU to get themselves back into it, and they need to keep this game close. What I am seeing is that Solarte is taking a little bit from the Hazine page, not giving up the court, staying close to the table, and it started off well for them. So now let's see, you know, what direction we're going. Again, it's a lot of back and forth in this match.
Huge forehand there.
And that's just not something that anybody wants to see coming at them. This blistering ball, you know, it's just bending.
A little bit of a lucky break there. It's going to be 4-2. The Wesleyan pair picking up a lot of momentum.
And they're just feeling comfortable, and I think that, you know, the thing that helped the team is that Solarte is just being a little bit more offensive as well. And that, again, like you said, that sets up Tomoike in the event that he comes back.
Yeah, I think one of the things they've been able to do really well is overpower. You know, when you have Jeremy Hazen, who's more comfortable playing up close to the table and countering quite quickly, once he's back off a little bit, and you have Mudit, who plays with quite soft hands, a lot of spin, kind of spin and touch shots. That's the kind of situation you get, is a player that can push another 20% up on his attacking game, like Salate, and then Tomoike, who's just phenomenal at finishing points and just loading the pressure on.
Yeah, well, you have a player as fast and explosive as Tomoike. The last thing you want to do is give him time and options, right? So at that point, he can paint any corner he wants to.
Yeah, and I think once these rallies have opened up, we've definitely seen NYU kind of play a little bit softer. They've definitely been the softer of the pairings in those rallies. And they need to change that. It looks like Muda is aware of that. But, you know, they have the tools. They definitely, both of them have the ability to increase the pace, to take the ball a little bit earlier sometimes. They're both skilled enough to do it. They just have to really lay that pressure on. And it's now, right? It has to be now.
Yeah, right here, right now. Moby? Right here, right now? You remember it.
Which one?
Don't worry.
Which one is it?
NYU takes that ball, sails it just a little long.
I thought it was a Van Halen song.
Now we're showing our age, but we're going to move on. Solarte to serve. Net ball there. Texas Wesleyan leads 6-5.
Long stroke, very long stroke. I think a little bit too long. You don't really get the acceleration towards the contact.
But that's also not Hazin's game
It's very
naturally. That's not where he wants to
Yeah.
be, taking a big long cut off the backhand side.
Uncharacteristic of Jeremy. But, you know, he's in that position. He realizes he has to do something. So
And again, sticking with the theme of the day over on table number 1.
there we go. There's the step around. And good hands there from Jeremy, retrieving that lucky net ball. 7-7, 2-2.
The serve looks underspin. There's some slight side top on that ball at the end of it, just the ever slightest of movement. And Hazin does a great job to be able to control it back. It was pretty heavy. Texas Wesleyan takes timeout as Solarte wanted to go inside out forehand, but just didn't have enough on it. And Hazin and Denis moved that much closer to advance into the semifinals. We've got another blazing match going on.
5 games. There at Deuce 10-10.
Deuce 10-10. Northwestern is tied up with UC Berkeley. We just saw UC Berkeley on this table.
This is really the crunch time for the Wesleyan guys. I mean, they put so much effort into coming back into this match. They will really want to make sure that they seal the victory here. It's a long time out. A lot of stuff to talk about here. A lot of strategizing.
The umpires are missing their little fancy box with the countdown, and maybe they're gracious with the time here in that timeout.
That's over on table 1. We don't get that kind of. Well, it's not for us.
We'll have to ask upper management about that, about getting us a little fancy timeout box.
So they have the serve, trailing by 1 point here. Tomoike serving. And the NYU pair doing their utmost to lock these two up in that backhand corner.
Yeah,
it worked well, you know, before the timeout, but I think Solarte was ready for it this time.
And they got away with one there. That's typically where they've been winning their points, is Tomoike's been able to take that forehand from that middle of the court and just pick any side he wants to. But he sprays it long. Hazin to serve.
I think, again, just the amount of ball placement that's going down that middle third is just they're handing away forehands. And you're giving away so many angles as well. I think that's probably something that that they wanted to avoid with the timeout. I know Doru was kind of signaling for them to get those angles a bit more.
It's a lot of pressure when you're
It's a
cutting
huge
down
amount
on
of
the
pressure.
space to hit into when the point is just as fast as it is. And Denise seals it there for NYU with a open forehand flip. And
they look relieved, I think is the best way to
that's a great way to put it, because
quantify it,
they
yeah.
know that towards the end of that match, Tomoike allowed them to get away. He missed some forehands late. Ultimately, the pair from Wesleyan, you know, again, this is first year of them playing together, first year part of the team. So excited to see what NYU has left in the tank after, you know, we saw a very exciting match there. And they had to just kind of find their way into the match, and they were able to get into it and hold on ultimately. And NYU moves on. Great showing from Texas Wesleyan. Looks like on the other table, you see Berkeley advance as well. So it's shaping up to be like NCAA March Madness, the heavy hitters at the ends. The 1 and 2 seeds are all making their way through. We're going to take a short break. I'm Joe Wells. Alongside me is Matt Hetherington, and you're watching day 1 of the 2022 Collegiate National Table Tennis Championships.
So ladies, let's do this. Ladies, let's do this on the towels. Okay, so you can put your towels there and keep them there on one side. You have towels, put one there and one on that towel box and then keep them there. We're not going to switch them. Okay. Okay, because of COVID? Yep. Okay, you got your towels? We just have one. Yeah, that's all right. All right. Okay, so why don't you come around over here? No, this for now. All right. First, let's settle this. Okay, one side's red, one side's blue. Who wants to call it?
I guess it's obvious blue.
Okay, so they're calling red. And it is blue. Your choice. Are you going to serve or receive?
We'll serve.
They're going to serve first. Which one of you is going to serve first? She's serving first. Let me just make sure. All right. So Yan Yu is going to serve first. Who's going to receive?
I can receive first.
Abby is receiving. Okay. Now, which you get your choice of end because they're choosing on that end. All right. Now, one thing we've decided, because they had to sit and wait for over an hour while you guys were playing, we're going to give you a little extra warm-up time if you want. So just start warming up, and then I'll let you know when the 2-minute warm-up officially starts. Okay, so you have a little extra time warming up.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right? I'll just let you know when the 2-minute warm-up starts. So you can just start hitting to warm up. So we're giving you a little extra time for warm-up. All right?
You guys serve. Inverse. So we're just gonna play some points? Or just hit it? Just hit it. How long do you have rounds? It's like hitting as usual. Yeah.
Welcome back to the 2022 Collegiate National Championships. We are in the women's doubles in the quarterfinal match, Georgia Tech versus Brown. And I am Barbara Way. I am here with Timothy Wong, two-time Olympian, and I'm excited to work with you again after our World Championships connection last fall.
Yeah, it's really great to be here. I'm super excited to work with you again and see some great collegiate table tennis over this weekend.
We were talking earlier about the women's match. It's so great to have all the women's events here, the women's teams, the women's doubles, and a great way to promote women's table tennis. For the number, we have Georgia Tech, who is the number 7 seeds in the blue and yellow on the far side of the table, and brown and orange-brown shirts on the near side as the number 13 seeds. I think for both of these teams, this is the first time that they've been on these championship tables. Takes some getting used to.
And it looks like they're having a close game one. First game being 6-6.
You know, on paper, the brown team is definitely kind of lower rated, but it's a super close match, and I think sometimes ratings are just wrong, and seedings can become misleading.
That's very true. Anything can happen in a match, especially on center court, right, on day one. Coming in, the pressure is on for both sides, so you never know what can happen here.
It's been a long day of competition, especially for the women's players. It's exciting to have the women's event and women's doubles, but it's a lot of the women doing double duty, and some of them also playing on the co-ed teams. Hey, Brown has their first game points. And they take it. They even look a little surprised. I think they didn't think they were going to play as well as they did. But again, I think these ratings are not so accurate.
Yeah, and Barbara, as you mentioned earlier, that the rating spread is actually pretty large gap here with the Georgia Tech pair with a combined rating of 35.86, and then the Brown pair with a combined rating of 12.38. But they actually, came and took that first game over here. So, as we mentioned earlier, anything can happen. And for those of you playing at home in local competitions, if you fight hard, you never know, right?
Yeah, and look at this Brown team on table 2, on center court, doing a great job. It's been also quite a hiatus for a lot of these players. 2 years without collegiate competition. I think some of the ratings may be outdated, and it's hard to make it all the way here. 2 divisional tournaments, 1 regional competition. Looks like the umpire, Linda Leaf, asking the team to identify a coach. And unlike the team competition, not everyone can talk from the team.
Yeah, she's just letting them know that there can only be one coach, and then asking that coach to go and sit in the corner of the Brown team.
Both of these teams have not played on center court yet earlier today, and it's quite an adjustment. are thinking about many of these college teams maybe train in much smaller gyms in different areas, and to be in this giant arena, it can feel intimidating for sure.
Of course, yeah, not too many opportunities to play in a hall this large. So definitely with so many tables and so many athletes around, it adds another element of pressure, I would say.
Nice Georgia Tech team making some more attacks this game. Body language looking a little more positive going forward.
See this strong tomahawk serve giving a lot of pressure onto the brown team in their receive. And looks like these last two balls went a little bit high, giving the Georgia Tech pair a good opportunity to attack.
Brown is still in it. You know, if you looked at the draw, you thought this would be a walkover for Georgia Tech, but that is not the case.
And another tomahawk serve. That shovel serve tomahawk has a lot of side topspin, creating a lot of opportunities for their partner to come in and play a really aggressive attack.
I think Georgia Tech kind of used the first game to get used to the space, and now kind of asserting their aggressive abilities in the second game.
Definitely coming out looking more confident this game. Doing a better job on the service and service receive for sure.
And now it's time for Brown to assert themselves, make a nice hit, nick the edge. These are best 3 out of 5, and it is a quarterfinal, so single elimination.
Again, coming with that tomahawk serve, giving a very good opportunity for the partner to come in and play a strong topspin.
And Georgia Tech again, nice wide angle. They're actually playing a little bit slower this game, meaning the pace is a little bit slower between the points, and I think that's helped them.
And also overall, just the receive game, and once they get into the rally, it looks like they're a lot more confident, not going for too much, but just making sure that they get the ball to the right place with the right amount of quality.
Ah, that's a great rally by both teams there. And now, 1-1.
Georgia Tech did a really good job this game controlling the service aspect of it. Both of them were serving either the hook serve or the tomahawk serve with side topspin, and it really gave a lot of opportunities for the next person to come back. I mean, for Brown to stay in this match, they need to figure out what to do with that service receive and not pop it up so high. Try to catch the ball a little bit earlier and keep it shorter and lower on the table.
That's right. So we'll see it. Both teams looking loose, especially the Georgia Tech team looking to move forward into this next round. And tonight we will play all of the doubles to the end. So we will crown our first national champions tonight, both in the women's doubles and in the men's doubles. Brown and Georgia Tech are not continuous, they don't show up at nationals every single year. So Tim, what's it like to be at nationals, especially if you're from one of these smaller programs?
I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, there's not so many opportunities to go and play in such a large venue. So to come out and play with some of the best players in the entire country, it's definitely a great experience, and I'm really excited that NCTTA is doing this and creating these opportunities for collegiate athletes to come together and compete.
Brown is really stepping up on the attack. Actually, we've seen the level rise every single game.
Brown doing a better job at the service receive. You see this one, she came in with her backhand side and was able to keep the ball short and much lower. So that's why they're, doing a much better job staying close early on in this game.
And again, similar thing, better at the pushing, keeping it low, clawing their way back. And now it's time for Georgia Tech kind of assert their dominance. They have nice foundations, right? Their footwork is pretty good. Their strokes are really good. I think they just have to use those shots.
Another good push from Brown. Touched the top of the net there, but still overall a great strategy, trying to keep the ball low and short.
Nice shot by Brown. Kind of got in that position. Staying within 3 points of Georgia Tech. A lot of nets in that point, but help Brown stay alive. And now Georgia Tech with the serve and 4 game points. Critical third game. And that's enough to take it. So they take a 2-1 lead over Brown. 1 game away from moving on to the semifinal.
So Brown did a good job this game, trying to return the serves a little bit better, keeping it short, keeping it low. But we can see the level of Georgia Tech over here, being able to adapt when the ball is an opportunity. When it goes high, they're able to attack, and when it's short and low, they're able to control and not overplay and overhit. And sometimes at the higher level, it's not always about how hard you can hit the ball, but being able to adapt and being able to kind of play into your opponent's style. It's very, very important.
So we'll see what happens in this next game. But Georgia Tech is looking confident. I think they are putting the pressure on playing better as the match goes along. I think they're looking for a semifinal spot. Say there are no trophies for the semifinal spot in doubles. It's only first and second. And so there's a little bit of a climb for teams. So it's not quite earning a medal yet.
So right now we're in the quarterfinal round, so that means they have to win 2 more rounds. Actually, yeah, they have to win 2 more rounds.
That's right. They have to win this game, or this match, and the next one in order to earn a cup. The Georgia Tech team with a no spin serve has been really successful, and I think they're going to keep using it. It helps them get nice, slow, controlled pop-up.
Yeah, and it really gives them an option on whether or not they want to be really aggressive or if they want to, control it and drop the ball short. The pair from Georgia Tech looking really confident in this game 4, coming out strong with a 4-1 lead.
And again, looking with that shot more confident, playing better and better as the match goes on, and looking really relaxed and loose too. Timeout for Brown. Sort of need it right now, but I think Georgia Tech is feeling good.
Yeah, I think this is a good timeout called by Brown. They need to kind of regroup and rethink what their strategy is going to be. And in this situation, I think, you're down 2-1, down 5-1. I think it's a good time to just kind of play freely and go for your shots. I mean, in this situation, it looks like Georgia Tech is pretty confident, right? Just playing the ball, keeping it on the table, not overhitting. I think it's a good time for Brown to come out swinging. You never know what can happen. Maybe they'll come back.
That's right, and it's the national championship. You should play your best. Like, no hesitation here. But Georgia Tech still in control. 5 points until they close out the game. And there's Brown coming out swinging, just like you said, Tim.
That's exactly what we need. We need to see some aggression come back.
That was a nice block by the Brown team. And they're keeping it tight. A timeout worked.
Bit of a lucky break catching the edge of the table there. But as we see right here from the timeout, right, Brown was down 5-1, and then now they're coming back to 6-5 in this game 4.
And here's Georgia Tech asserting again that they know how to attack too, and they're going to come out swinging as well. An aggressive serve and follow-up. Georgia Tech 5 match points to move into the semifinal.
Great attack from the Brown pair, not giving up, still trying to come back and take this.
Oh, but that missed serve. Georgia Tech moves on. It's a lot of pressure to play under the lights, probably for the first time for many of these players. And so Georgia Tech moves on into the quarterfinals. And they will continue tonight in their semifinal match. And next on this table, we will have the men's semifinal for the doubles. And I don't think we know who that is yet, because I think they're still playing.
Okay. So yeah, really excited to see who we have in the semifinals over here.
But for now, we'll take a break, and we'll be back with the men's doubles semifinal.
שים לב שהסרב, תשים לב קודם, אתה זורק את הפסק מגיע ל3 פה. כאילו הם פסלו קודם ודארץ כמעט הלך להם המשחק בגלל זה. יותר מהפינה. רגע, יש שופט? I said sure. Let's go. Justin.
It's like nature, I think.3个下来的时候，说给你练，照你那边叫练拔步。
Okay, we also have to check the rackets.
Wait, what?
The rackets have to be checked over there. So I'm going to give you 39 there. I'm going to give you the 41, and then give the rackets to them. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm going to meet you at the
就他可以练2分钟。
这个。
That's okay with you. That's fine with
好
me.
一个，好一个。
That's actually every protocol we have to change. Okay. I don't want to change protocol. So they're gonna go over there. All right.
good, man. So are you Sharon or Gal? Gal. Gal? Okay. Is this town when you guys? It's all too loud. So Sharon, why no one purple, one green? It's more confusing. We don't have green. I get you.
We're getting ready to start the men's double semifinal. This is a really exciting match. We'll see our number one seeds, Indiana Algetti brothers, on table on the show courts for the first time. They are the number one seeds, both in the men's doubles and also anchoring the Indiana team as number one seeds here. I'm Barbara Way. I'm here with two-time Olympian Timothy Wong.
Yeah, really excited to be here. I think we're going to see, a great match in the men's doubles semifinals. We have two very strong teams. We have the Algetti brothers, Sharon and Gal, facing off against Kai and Stone.
And I think look to expect some very high-level table tennis. A lot of people with World Championship experience, international experience, a lot of national experience, and it's. I'm really glad that they are here repping college table tennis and their universities.
Yeah, I believe 3 out of the 4 on the table here have been in some sort of international competition and represented Team USA.
So what an honor to have them here as we're getting set up in this semifinal. We have some of the best men's players in college table tennis tonight, but I would say maybe in the US tonight. So the Algetti brothers, obviously brothers, both at Indiana University.
And twins as well. Yeah.
And so people have said that they have great chemistry, especially in their doubles, which is very important.
Kai Jiang and Yingrong Shi of USC versus Sharon Algetti and Gal Algetti of Indiana. Indiana to serve. 0-0. Start.
There we have a great opening from Sharon, catching the ball right off the bounce off of a heavy backspin, opening into Kai's forehand. And generally, you don't want to do that against Kai because Kai has such a dangerous forehand.
And Tim, what's going to be the key for both of these teams in this match as we get started in this first game?
I think something that's going to be super important is being able to keep the service receive short and low, not giving the opponents too much opportunity to attack, and then varying, like we saw right here, right, being able to open, right, very aggressively so the partner can come in and catch the ball early and play it into a good place.
And who are we watching for the biggest attack?
I think, for the biggest forehand, I think Kai is definitely one to be reckoned with. He's got an unbelievable forehand topspin. He's got so much acceleration and explosiveness, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Nice demonstration of Kai of that kind of torque in his body. It's such a compact stroke, and it generates so much speed, so much power.
Great attack from Sharon. You can see he can really change his gears and change his placement as well. You saw this ball, he went wide out into the backhand side of the table. Really, really versatile player.
And you see Indiana sort of pushing USC far away from the table, pushing them off the table in that pass point. And I think if they do that, they'll really have the upper hand, taking a nice lead right now. What a block from Gal. super creative. I think he was a little out of position, but to make it on the table like that is a great shot.
That was like a inside-out, side swiping, side spin, side backspin block. That was great touch. And as you mentioned earlier, right, these two brothers, I mean, they're twins, but they have great chemistry together, and you can clearly see it right now. They're setting each other up so well to be aggressive.
And Kai's forehand is really the weapon for the USC team. And I haven't seen Kai swing for a forehand in a couple shots. It's been a lot of backhand openings, and that's important for Indiana to do.
2-9.
Wow.
Wow.
And there we have it, another inside-out forehand down the line rip. Right, just being able to counter topspin that ball is already so difficult, but Sharon just ripped the ball with so much quality down the line.
The Algetti brothers are known for their touch, and that is a great demonstration of touch. Like you said, it's hard enough to counter loop. It's even harder to do it like that and make it look easy. And they take it 11-2, a commanding first game. Looks like the chemistry is working between the twins. And a lot of work to do for USC.
They did very well in the service receive, you know, controlling that ball short, pushing it long, and opening on the half-long balls whenever they had the opportunities. Overall, I would say that this was pretty much just a perfect game. I mean, so commanding, 11-2 in the first game.
On the USC side, they're going to have, well, both teams will have a different rotation, right? So we'll see if that makes a difference. It has made big differences earlier today. And from USC, what are you looking for them to do in this next game?
You know, I think they're going to take some more chances. I mean, as we saw in the first game, right, the Algetti brothers really controlled on the service receive game. So I think this game they're really going to try to, you know, instead of dropping the ball short too many times, they're going to try to go deep, long, and play the rally out. It seems like the Algetti brothers on the first 3 to 5 balls are controlling and commanding the pace. And hopefully we'll see some, you know, explosive forehands from Kai.
0-0.
And that opening explosive forehand, that's Kai's signature shot, and he needs to use it throughout the match. Oh, so it's going to be a tough one for USC. Great opening.
There was some great variation. We saw the first ball where Kai really teed off on it, and then this ball, he dropped it short. So we can see some variation from Kai as well.
Yeah, Kai's not only those big forehands. There's a lot more tools in his toolbox.
As we saw right there with a big backhand.
0-3.
And Sharon answering with his own backhand. New rotation is very strong for the USC team. That was a huge lead.
Yeah, and we see Kai and Stone being more aggressive as well, taking every opportunities that they make. I think I only saw Kai push the ball short one time, and then other than that, it's just been Stone and Kai ripping from both sides, you know, really taking a commanding lead in this game 2 here.
2-5.
But I think from the Algety side, they're starting the counter move, right? They're not gonna, they're trying to put the pressure back.
5, 3.
Kai coming in with an aggressive forehand flick. Unfortunately, it just went a little bit long off the end of the table there.
Well, Gal doing a really nice job on serve receive. I've seen a couple variations. I think he stepped it up in the last couple points. Because Gal's hitting to Kai, so it's important, very important to keep it very short or high quality.
Good opening from Kai. Opening that backhand banana wide out into the forehand side.
5, 6.
I'm a little surprised Kai's using his backhand from the forehand corner, given how explosive his forehand is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's because of Gal's serve, right? He's coming over with the backhand side, and that spin is sometimes hard to drop short with the forehand. And in order to be aggressive on the ball still, he's coming over and using that backhand banana, which gives him more gears.
Yes, sir.
6, 7.
A little bit of a lucky break there, catching the edge.
You know, it's a great angle. Nice edge.
8, 6.
And Algety's now 2-point lead after being down.
Wow, yeah. Stone and Kai were up 5-1 in this game, and now they're down 9-6. Algety brothers did a really good job controlling the service and service receive again.
And you see that Kai hasn't taken a big swing since that 5-1 lead. And that's the shot that USC needs.
Yeah, he really needs to, you know, take advantage of every opportunity he gets, even if he misses or not. I think that's the only way. Playing passive here is not going to help them in this cause.
And a service error from Stone gives the Algety brothers a commanding 2-0 lead in this semifinal. Looks like from the Indiana side, it's very commanding. They were down 5-1. 10 points to 1 point.
That was a great comeback. They really put a lot of pressure on. And I think if Stone and Kai want to come back, I mean, they just really have to go for everything. Go for broke, pretty much. I mean, if they miss one or two, that's totally fine. But, you know, trying to play this short receive game, and it's not going to give them any advantage, as we saw in the first two games. Sharon and Gal are really putting the pressure on and taking the upper hand in pretty much every single rally that we've seen.
Yeah, we'll look to see kind of going for broke on the USC side. And then from the Algety side, I actually expect kind of more of the same. More control, nice touch shots. It really depends if going for broke will work for USC, like if they're actually able to hit the table, win the points. And they demonstrated that they could early in that second game.
Indiana leads 2 games to 0. Indiana to serve. 0-0.
Nice combo, great chemistry between the Algety brothers.
1-0.
Wow, it's like the same combo twice.
Yeah, two great forehands from Sharon. This second one touched the top of the net, but the placement and the quality on the ball was just very, very good.
There is Kai's signature shot. More of that will keep USC alive in this match.
Here we have a half long serve. Kai was getting ready to push the ball short, but again, that's that variation from the Alghetti brothers.
Looks like Sharon wasn't quite in position for that. But close third game. Actually, nobody running off with a big lead, so it's unlike any of the other ones we've seen so far. Wow.
Great forehand flip from Stone, but Sharon was there ready on top of the ball and just smacked it back.
Crushed it. Awesome, awesome shot. Awesome placement by Sharon there, right into the middle. The Indiana team, the Alghetti brothers, are really good at winning all the short exchanges. Not every single time, but very frequently they're winning.
5-6.
Great play from Sharon. Normally he's been pushing this ball short into the forehand, and you see this one surprising Kai by pushing it deep long into his backhand side. Kai, even though he made it onto the table, it was a little bit too high, and then Gao was able to play that forehand smash down the line.
And again, Indiana, 2-point lead, 2-0 lead. Look at that creativity.
That was awesome. Did you see that? All that side spin, the ball curved in back onto the table. And great touch again by Sharon.
And Kai, I think overhitting. I do feel like the USC team feels like they're overmatched here.
Definitely a lot of pressure on the USC team.
Okay, staying alive, but the Alghetti brothers 4 match points to book the first ticket into the final. And that's it. So Indiana moves into the final, the first team to move into the final, commanding 3-0 win.
The brothers, the twins, we saw the mental telepathy here. They really worked well together and were able to dominate in this match and really just, you know, control USC and have them play into their game.
The big congrats to USC making it into the semifinal. They had a harrowing quarterfinal match where they were almost out. So kudos to them for making it, but major congrats to them. We'll see the Alghetti brothers tonight in the men's doubles final. We're going to take a little break, and up next we will have the women's semifinal in a little bit as we finish out matches tonight at the 2022 National Collegiate Championships.